Is that better?
No, you're taking over the screen. So you got this all figured out.
I'm afraid to unmute. Are we okay? Okay. All right. I don't know if I can hear you guys, so I will listen carefully. Is my volume okay? Yes. All right. Okay. I'm going to do my best, and if it's not going well or people are having a hard time hearing, oh goodness, yes, when you unmute, it makes that terrible noise. Then Tony graciously offered to take over for me, but I will do my best. So we'll start here, calling this meeting to order at 6:36 p.m. Thank you for your patience as we figure out this technology, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Okay. Next up is our recognitions, and if you join us regularly, you know that each meeting we like to recognize students or employees or community members that have given generously or gone above and beyond to support our district. So this meeting is our second of this month, but for today's meeting, we'd like to recognize the Schenectady County Sheriff's Department. They brought us a donation of a tremendous amount of school supplies. It was set up very nicely in the district office. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was a mountain of school supplies, and we're so very grateful for that and for them and their partnership with us. You'll see that we will accept that donation later on in the meeting tonight. And then also to our maintenance and custodial teams. They are in the crunch time as we are approaching the beginning of the school year. And as always, they are phenomenal. And they're getting everything ready and keeping up with dust and all the things. So we're very, very grateful to Anand and his team for all the work that they do all summer, but especially in this push before we start school in a couple of weeks. Okay. Is there any discussion for this evening's agenda? Okay. And Serena, I believe we did have maybe one addition. No. Okay. Nothing. Serena is keeping me informed via text message because I'm having a hard time hearing you guys. So because there are no agenda changes and no concerns or questions with regard to this evening's agenda, I will do the motion. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education approves the agenda for the regular meeting this evening, 8/26/2026. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Craig, I think. A second?
Second.
Thank you. I think that was Tony. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next up is our resolution for our meeting from August 5th. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approves the regular meeting on August 5th, 2026. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Tony. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Serena, do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Yes, okay. I might have someone else announce that, have Tony announce that, since I can't read the paper.
Marceline?
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have several questions about the emergency high school parapet project on tonight's agenda. The August 5th board meeting minutes document a planned meeting with contractors to solicit bids by August 10th. Were those contractors masonry, roofing, or some other type? How many were contacted, and have any proposals been received? At the July 21st meeting, the board authorized up to $780,000 for this emergency project. The minutes indicate that approximately $510,000 was anticipated for construction, labor, and materials, and approximately $270,000 for incidentals, including construction management, architectural and engineering services, and so on. The schoolhouse construction proposal on tonight's agenda requests $37,000 in professional fees, including $22,670 for construction phase services. Before that proposal is approved, please tell us how the construction phase fee was calculated and whether the $37,000 is included in the $270,000 incidentals amount already authorized by the board. Most importantly, because this project involves unstable masonry and work around an occupied school building, it is important for the board and the public to understand who is responsible for contractor selection, project coordination, safety oversight, and final approval of changes and additional costs. The safety of students and staff require prompt action. My questions are intended to support a project that is both safe and effectively managed. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Serena let me know that no one else had signed up, but before we move on, I want to make sure that there isn't anyone else present that had wanted to speak but didn't sign in. No one. Okay, thank you, Serena. Okay, up next, we'll move on to item 4 on our agenda from our policy committee. Our policy committee chair, Francis Spoor, is out of the country today, and Ray McTiernan is under the weather. So, but I think, Michael, you were planning to have this report anyway, so I will turn it to you.
All right, I am not prepared to deliver this report. However, I can provide an update on what the policy committee has been doing. There are several policies that provide language that is either inconsistent with current law or specify policies that are no longer required. We reviewed at the past policy meeting last week approximately 7 of those. That's really the only update that I can give at this time. Additionally, each of those policies, the work that happens in that committee ultimately ends up being proposals that are submitted to the board that go out in the minutes for review beforehand. But that's all I have to provide at this time.
Thank you, Michael. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Thanks, Serena. Let's see. All right. Next up, we have our capital project updates.
Okay, so Marcy, I try to write really fast. All right, emergency parapet. You mentioned about August 10th date. That was when we solicited bids. It has been extended by a few days because there was an additional abatement discovered. And so we wanted that any of the masons who are putting a bid together had the time to gather that information. And I believe Monday is when Monday is when the bids will come in. Schoolhouse reached out to at least a dozen different masons. Because it's an emergency project, we don't necessarily have to, we're not governed by the same rules, but we clearly want to make sure that we get the best mason that we can, and time is of essence. You outlined $510,000 for materials, and then the remaining is for others. And your question was around schoolhouse, $37,000. That is included in that $200,000 plus. And how it's calculated is based on their schedule fees of man hours and crews here to supervise the work, coordinating with the general contractor, coordinating with the abatement company, coordinating with the environmentalists, coordinating with the commissioner, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have the breakdown in front of me. And who is responsible for it? So Schoolhouse is our construction manager, so they do daily oversight. As our construction attorney has said, you don't see a superintendent wearing a hard hat walking around, and you wouldn't want me to because I don't have the knowledge or skills for that. So they do the project oversight, and approval changes depends. It's tiered. Anything less than $20,000, I can sign off on it. 20,000 to, I'm going to say this off the top of my head, I think it's 20 to like 35,000, then the board president, and anything over that is board approval. Did I forget anything, Jeff? Nope. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions with regard to the capital project update?
I think so.
Yeah.
We had the pleasure of walking around today. So as the board, I was talking about.
I think because the microphone's behind you.
Just that we had the, I'll talk about that. We had the opportunity as the board today to walk around, which was awesome to see the schools and the progress that's being done. You can tell when CJ walks you through the projects how hard everybody's working to try and make it so that the schools are in the best shape possible for the kids when they come back to school. There were some ideas that were brought up today for when kids come back, or some thoughts on how to make it for an easier transition coming from the board so that things are easier for the kids. And it's a seamless transition for maybe a kid that's coming into kindergarten to my daughter who's going into 6th grade and then coming to middle school for the first time. So,
We fixed it.
how's that? Is that better? How's that? No? That's okay. So I was nice to see the project and the way that it's progressing. I was skeptical on the way that things were going because when it goes through construction and how things really go, it's very hard to see progress. But we had the opportunity today, and I think that, thank you very much, Serena. It was seeing how much progress and how hard they are working to make this as seamless as possible for the kids. So we had the opportunity to do it. I was very pleased with what I saw. Superintendent, Jeff, the rest of the board members answered a bunch of my questions because I'm And I know that they're doing the best that they can. And speaking with CJ and their thought processes and safety and everything else that goes through a parent's mind and then a community member's mind, as well as for the superintendent and the principals and all staff, it's all there. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, Craig. I had the opportunity, oh, excuse me.
Okay, so I think I missed one of Marcy's questions about safety. So part of the bidding process is ensuring that that area is fenced and that no human being can access it. We also part of the experts, right, who know how to do this work. There's exit windows. We want to make sure that we're not covering up. And if we do, is there another way of egress in emergency? We're told that we can put a temporary fence up until the mason actually puts a more hard, durable fence in. And it won't impact any safety issues inside the building because it's all like on the roof and on the edging. So there is a plan in place to make sure that it is, you know, fenced off from anyone being able to access that area. Did I miss anything else, do you think, guys? Okay. And thank you for the folks who could come today for the tour. Board members, as you know, anytime you want to come see progress, we can't let the public walk around because it is a construction zone, but with the appropriate people like CJ or Henry, we can walk you through.
I was just going to mention, Kim, that because I knew I would be away today, I did do a walkthrough last week, and I would echo what Craig said. The progress is quite substantial, and I'm excited for the end product. All right. Any other comments or questions regarding the capital project? Okay. Okay. Oh, no, thanks. Thanks, Serena. All right, we're going to move to our superintendent's report. So I'll pass it back to you again, Kim.
Okay, I just hear a cricket in the background. I'm like, is there a cricket in here? All right, so some things. I have a sticky note. I want to make sure I get to it. You're going to see on the agenda tonight, as we search for our next director, that we were able to hire an interim CSE CPSC chair. Myself and Alicia, as well as many members of the special education department, highly recommended her. She is lovely. Her name is Lori. We've been talking with her, so her official appointment is this evening, and then tomorrow she'll have access and she'll hit the ground running. And that, as we know, would be an impossible feat for me to do both jobs, but I can still step in as acting director of special education. For those of you who don't know, in a previous role, I was the director of student support services and CSE chair for 660 students in another district, so it's like riding a bike, or a little rusty bike, but I'm getting there. So we're happy for Lori to join us. We had new staff orientation today, and that continues tomorrow with more training. We have hired 11 new staff, which includes 4 teachers, from bus drivers to bus monitors to lunch monitors. So it was a great day. Thank you to Tony and Jeff for doing the community tour. It was great. Jeff drove the bus, and Tony gave the tour like she does every year. And then they did some other like sit and learn activities as well. I have some bad news, and then I have some good news. So I was made aware of the other day that, if you may have known Kim Whitbeck, who always organized our baccalaureate services. She picked it up when her mother passed, because her mother always organized baccalaureate. She passed away this weekend. So condolences to the family, and thank you so much for all the years of organizing that. So Mrs. Marvin and I have been chatting, like, how do we move forward so we keep this tradition alive? Some really good news. Back in the spring, I had mentioned that I had applied for a grant through rural schools in the federal government. We were notified late last night that we were awarded nearly $49,000 in a grant, and it's quite interesting. It is just general fund. They don't give us any guardrails of like, you need to spend it here, you need to spend it there. So Jeff and I had a busy day, so we haven't had any time, but to really like dive into what we should allocate it towards. But we certainly think that it should go towards the needs of our students. We always need to remember what, focus our financial needs and use those funds. So that was a happy surprise today. I actually forgot about it, that I applied for that grant. Last but not least, I know that there was no public comment from anybody in the community, but I just figured in the vein of being transparent. I've been receiving some emails and curiosities from some family members regarding technology at the elementary school. So we've had some ongoing conversations with teachers as well as, Ms. Labarge. I just want to be very clear that, one, students don't have access to iPads. There are no iPads, no tablets in the district unless it's used for supporting like a student with special needs. Students have access to Chromebooks, but they don't take, at the elementary school, they don't take Chromebooks home. So there's a Chromebook cart. The board walked through and saw a classroom tonight. There's carts where teachers, if they need to have a student access it. So I think the misunderstanding is that teachers are using Chromebooks for instruction, and that's the farthest thing from the truth. That they don't replace teacher-led grade-level instruction. Instead, they're a supportive tool, most often to reinforce, practice, and reteach skills that have already been taught through the direct instruction. This ensures that technology remains an extension of our high-quality teaching, and it's not a substitute for it. But we also know that eliminating technology at the elementary level would not only conflict with New York State's expectations and standards, but would also compromise our responsibility to prepare students for the digital fluency skills required in later grades in the world we're growing up. And just to recap, New York State does require that we teach K through 12 computer science and digital literacy standards, which begins in kindergarten, and it's progressive, right? You build on those skills throughout the years. And we still believe that instruction continues to be centered on play-based learning, hands-on exploration, and direct instruction. Finally, I want to make sure I had my notes. I've heard this over the last decade. Major workforce studies from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics and the World Economic Forum show that rapid advances in technologies are creating entirely new categories of jobs, many of which don't even exist a few years ago. So in fact, global employers expect the creation of more than 170 million new technology-driven jobs by 2030. This is why early literacy isn't optional. While we're preparing students for a future, many of their eventual careers haven't even been invented yet. So while we absolutely can and should continue to set strong limits on screen time, as a grandparent, I know it burns their brain, right? When you have a 7 and 5-year-old. Maintain transparency with our families on this, ensure that technology use is developmentally appropriate. We cannot adopt a policy that removes technology entirely, but because it would conflict with our learning standards that were required, but it also will leave our students less prepared. So our recommendation, or my recommendation moving forward, is that we continue to reflect and refine, working with our teaching staff and our families, a balanced approach, limited, purposeful Chromebook use, explicit instruction in digital safety, and ongoing communication with our families. This allows us to honor both the state's requirements and our community's commitment to healthy childhood development. That's all I have. Any questions from the board? All right. You're
No
good?
questions?
No.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks, Kim. Okay. Next up are our financial items. We have 7 of them this evening, and I think it makes sense for us to do them all together. But if anyone wants to pull any one of them out, I figured I'd ask before I carried on. Okay. All right. Then, with that in mind, be it resolved based upon the recommendation of the of the superintendent, that the Board of Education approves and accepts financial items 7.01 through 7.07. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Thank you, Michael. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Comments or questions on any of these items? I would just ask Kim, I'm pretty sure that I know the answer to this, but the service agreement with Gilderley, we do have a student that is outplaced there, right?
Correct.
Okay. Right. There are no other questions or comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Our next items are instructional personnel. Be it resolved, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, that the Board of Education approves, instructional personnel items 8.01 through 8.05. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Tony. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I think that was Michael. Comments or questions?
I have a question. Explain the difference between the CSE chairperson and the director of special education.
So the CSE, CPSE chairperson just attends and chairs the Committee on Special Education. So when they're developing a student's IEP or amending it or initial evaluation or reevaluation. So that person sits with a team of providers and general ed teachers to determine what the IEP will look like if it needs to be changed. Director of Special Education just is an oversight position of, so we have like the really great reading going on, it is troubleshooting with our special ed staff, it is meeting with parents. I already have like 2 or 3 meetings set up for next week in the opening of school to kind of talk about their children or if they have concerns, so I'm fielding that side of it all. To be Director of Special Education, you have to have a school district leader certification. And our CSE chair, she's a school psychologist by trade, but she does not have her administrative degree. Does that answer? Is it kind of, well, no,
I mean, it's a lot of work.
No, I completely agree. And, you know, what we're right now in the early stages, I'm going to make sure that I am in with Alicia in the special ed office for time-wise, like 2 days. So like if it's a morning or an afternoon, a morning and afternoon, and then vice versa over at the elementary school. So I will be planting myself in the building so that I'm accessible to the staff and to Alicia.
Just, you know, again, the concern is the superintendent.
I know. I share that too.
All right. Just
Yeah. Check to make sure I'm okay. No, I agree with the concern. We are we have the job posted. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of candidates who qualify. We actually have some candidates who aren't even certified, so I was surprised to see that they applied. But we'll continue to canvass. I was told of someone who might be willing to be an interim and do it all, but I just found out about that yesterday, so I didn't have a chance to reach out.
Any other questions or comments?
Sarah, did you?
No, you just said there was somebody else that you were looking to interview that might fill
Interim wise. Yeah, but I have to look at
fill both roles.
Yes, fill both roles. But a first glance at their resume, they do not have a CSE. They've never been a CSE chair, and to be a CSE chair, you have to do the 4-day training. There's a requirement. It's a 4-day training. So I'm going to look closer because their resume just came to me yesterday. But again, you know, it's almost you have to have both to do both. You have to have the CSE training, that's a 4-day training, and then you have to be a school district certified administrator to hold the title of director, because it's K-12.
Understood. So, I mean, should we table part of, like,
Well,
there's enough-
we're required to have somebody in the position as director of SPED. So like we have Mrs. Marvin, she's the director of PE, so she wears that hat.
Sure.
So we have to have someone with the certification to at least have that hat identified as the director.
Okay, so this other option that you talk about is gonna not be an option after we vote, correct?
No, we could always amend it when hopefully we will find the perfect candidate and we hire them to take on the permanent role.
With the permanent person?
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay, okay, I think we're on the same page, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the goal.
If I might also mention, Kim, that, having the superintendent sit as the CSE or CPSE chairperson is not ideal. And so having someone separate to be able to do that, she obviously can't step into even an interim director role because she's not an administrator, but she does have a lot of experience, it would seem, acting as a chairperson. So, and we're going to have CSE and CPS meetings beginning on day one of school, if not before that. So there's a big push, right? We always have a ton of meetings, and so this will, I think, right, allow you, Kim, to focus on your job as superintendent and do the things that need to be done oversight-wise, but then Mrs. Hotelling will be able to run these meetings.
Correct. And when it comes to the position, it is the biggest lift within the position. As I mentioned before, we're required to name someone to director of PE or the McKinney-Vento liaison or the foster care liaison. This is just another one of those pieces that we have to identify who's in charge of it mainly because of state reporting.
Any more questions or comments? Okay. In that case, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next items are our non-instructional personnel items. Be it resolved, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, that the non-instructional personnel items 9.01 through 9.05 are accepted and approved. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Tony. A second? Thank you, Craig. Comments or questions on any of our non-instructional personnel items? All right. In that case, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Our next item is our CSE and CPSE minutes. Be it resolved, based upon the recommendation of the superintendent, that the Board of Education hereby approves the CSE and CPSE minutes from the meetings held on August 6th, 13th, 18th, and 20th, 2026. May I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Tony. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Comments or questions about this item? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next item is the retirement of obsolete and superseded board policies. Excuse me. Be it resolved, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, that the Board of Education of the Duanesburg Central School District hereby retires the following board policies effective immediately, as the provisions addressed by such policies are already established and governed by applicable New York State law and/or regulations, and therefore separate district policy is no longer necessary. As you can see in the list, we have policy 1338, 6216, and 6217, duties of a school physician and nurse practitioner, disciplining a tenured teacher, and professional staff separation. May I have a motion? I think that was Craig. Thank you, Craig. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Michael. Comments or questions on this?
Yes, I'll add a couple others. I was earlier in my policy meeting deal. Francis is out today, and Ray was unexpectedly here. I wasn't prepared to go give that earlier, but I can comment on a couple of these. Policy 1338, 6216, and 6217. Each of those are prescribed almost entirely in law. In the past, those were written at a time when that wasn't the case. So, you know, in the spirit of there's no error-free policy, and unlike the policy that doesn't exist, it is appropriate to go retire each of those. So I just wanted to provide that context.
Thank you, Michael. Any other questions or comments from the board? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Our next item is informational. We will have one more resolution after informational. Usually we end with informational, but I'm going to go in order. So just an announcement for everyone that the Hall of Fame induction will be at our next meeting, which is Wednesday, September 9th. It will take place at 5:30 p.m. On that date, immediately before our regularly scheduled board meeting. Board members and guests are invited to join us as we recognize and celebrate this year's Hall of Fame inductees. And this, again, the ceremony will be followed by the regularly scheduled board meeting. Anyone and everyone is invited to this. It's a really lovely celebration of people that have given so much to our district over the years. So mark your calendars. Our next meeting, Wednesday, September 9th. We will start early at 5:30 to do the induction for the Hall of Fame. And then lastly, as I mentioned before, we have the acceptance of donated school supplies from the Schenectady County Sheriff's Department. So be it resolved that the Duanesburg Central School District Board of Education hereby accepts with gratitude the donation of school supplies from the Schenectady County Sheriff's Department for the benefit of district students. The board extends its sincere appreciation to the Sheriff's Department for its generosity and continued support of the Duanesburg school community. May I have a motion? Thank you, Michael. A second? Oh, Craig, sorry. Thank you, Craig. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Comments or questions?
I'll just add that one of our policies has a minimum threshold after which gifts need to be approved by the board. It is a pretty awesome thing that we as the board get to approve this. I want to commend the sheriff and his organization for being really thoughtful benefactors of our district and our students for donating this.
It was a massive mountain of supplies. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. With that, I do believe we are in need of an executive session this evening, so I will do that in a moment. I will let everyone know that's there watching that we will not be returning to open session, so we will close after executive session. So thank you very much for being here. I wish I could see from the big screen, and thank you for your patience and allowing me to conduct this meeting remotely. Let's see, I need a motion to move to convene into executive session for the purposes of negotiations at 7:13 p.m.
I'll motion. It's all you.
I think that was Tony. How about a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, comments or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you, everyone. We will see you again on the 9th. Please come at 5:30 and welcome our new inductees.